Welcome, everybody, back to Political Soul Food. It's Thursday, yes, and that means Thursday night Black Shoutouts. It's Thursday, March 28th, Thursday night Black Shoutouts. This is when I talk about people of color, black people who are doing things for people of color. In fact, I don't stop there, who are doing things for any group of people are that are experiencing oppression in any form of fashion. And that's what we're doing here. We're here to celebrate. We're here to acknowledge. I want to shout out my boy Gerald Thompson's up here on Instagram. What's up, brother? Got to shout you out. A genius. Got to get him on a show. Sooner or later, we're going to have him here. A brother who is in touch with the heritage of knowledge, with the heritage of justice, the pursuit of justice in our community. And so I definitely want to tap his mind and get him up in here one of these days. So I want to give people a chance to tune in. So what I'm going to do is get this intro started, give people a chance to catch the notifications, and then we're going to jump in. We're going to talk a little bit about what Maxine Waters doing, the NAACP and free tuition. Oh, I'm sorry, not the NAACP. HBCUs. Let me fix this here. So we got HBCUs doing some free tuition work out here, and we got the NAACP pushing for equal rights for the LGBT community, and we also have Tarana Burke is doing her thing at HBCUs for sexual assault and rape, and there are a couple of youngsters that I got to shout out. Tani Toluwa Adewumi, an 8-year-old who recently won a chess tournament, the New York State Championships. I'm going to shout him out, and I want to shout out Dylan Chidick, who recently got accepted to 17 colleges. So I definitely want to give these people some credit. And so let's get started. Let me fix this HBCU thing. Get this straight. Okay, good. Good. So let me just pass on this intro, and then I just want to let people know that we're live. All right, so we'll be right back after this 60 seconds. Yes, 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 yes. It is Thursday night Black Shoutouts. Let's do this. Let's talk about it. So let's see who's on the list. And I had a lot of people, and I just had to do my best to get as many as I could in here because we don't have all night, but definitely we have other nights. And so I figured instead of trying to get everyone, to get a few notable people, especially those who have recently accomplished some things, and so I should catch them before the celebratory feeling evaporates. So let's start off with I kind of changed the order here with you all. So this is our quick huddle here. I think that um, I want to start off with Maxine Waters. I had a different order here, but I figure I start off with Maxine Waters. I wanted to shout Maxine Waters out because she had said, all right, there was a piece in the Griot headline: Maxine Waters says she will not lay off Trump despite Mueller report. So before the Mueller report dropped, she was already saying, regardless what it says, I'm not letting up. right? She's going to stand her ground and pursue him, especially as the chair of the House of Financial Services Committee. So, as the chair of the House of Financial Services Committee, she said she's going to vow to continue the inquiry into Trump's corruption, and she's down to send subpoenas for the report and the Attorney General, William Barr. Now, we need somebody gangster like that representing us, holding the fort. And so we got to acknowledge that because that comes at a risk. Don't forget, she was one of the people targeted. Remember the guy was sending out these pipe bombs? Well, Maxine Waters was one of them. Okay, she received several death threats. People tried to equate her call for a sort of stand your ground movement against Trump, particularly and Trump's administration in general, because of the wall and the separation of children. And so she was saying, listen, make them feel uncomfortable. Now she said she didn't push for violence or anything. Obviously, it was easy. She was talking on the cuff, and it's easy for people just to say, "Oh, she's promoting violence." She wasn't promoting violence. The woman was not promoting violence at all. But she was saying, "We're going to make some noise." The same way the Tiki Torchmen made some noise, and she wasn't even saying, "Do not grab some torches and march across the streets and mow people down." No, 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 no. She was letting you know that, listen, if you're representing inhumane policies, then you have to know that there are people, American citizens, who are standing up against that. And we're going to make some noise in that way. We're going to make some noise by letting you know when we see you. But we're not going to threaten your life and certainly not send bombs to your apartment. So I'm sure y'all probably remember that whole ordeal. So Maxine Waters has not backed down since then, since these threats against her life, which I'm sure are still continuing. And she's making it clear, she's announcing to us that the Mueller report, as I said before, is not the end all be all. Not at all. Not at all. She is saying that with the authority that she has as a member of the House, she's going to continue to pursue an inquiry into Trump's corruption. So I just want to give her a hand for that and make sure we acknowledge her and have her back. A lot of people played like they were disappointed when William Barr announced his summary, which is suspect. But if you're really about it, you got to keep in mind that there are people who are pursuing it. And so this black woman is up there, right? And she's just a target, not just for coming up against Trump, but a target for being a woman, a target for being black. So please, let us make sure that we give her our support and just let her know that she got back. And not only that, we got to let the opposition know. We have to let Republicans know that we are supporting her pursuit of Trump's corruption. So I want to give a shout out to Maxine Waters for that. Let me quote her what she was saying. Here's her. She says, "He's been saying no collusion, no collusion, no collusion over and over again for a long time now, and he's going to try and conclude that this report is proving that there's no collusion, and you have a lot of his sycophants who will take the nod from him and they'll say the same thing. But we cannot allow them to get away with this." She continues, "He does this all the time. This is not the end of anything." And I'm right there with her. I always say we cannot just sit back and let white nationalism, corruption, bigotry saturate the airwaves and the public discourse. I know many of us don't want to get involved with a lot of these things, but we listen. If you really want change, the least you can do is vote and speak up, participate, like a page, or support someone who is trying to protect your rights, trying to defend humanity, because we are basically saying an assault against humanity. All right. So shout out to Maxine Water. I'm giving a shout out here to Dr. Marshall who dropped in on IG. Good to see you out here. And we got Facebook over here. What's good? So, all right. Let's go to the next one here. I want to shout out next. Number 2 for tonight is the HBCUs and free tuition. I think that's important. So let me just go here and see what this is all about here, because I'm big for education because I see it as an opportunity. It's a resource, right, that can break systemic poverty, the trends of poverty, and it can also supply us with the knowledge we need to navigate this society and the world. Alrighty. So let's see what we got here. There's an HBCU. Where you at? Let me get my notes in the house. Yeah, here we go. So I got this from blavity.com if you want to follow up on it. And the title is University of the Virgin Islands becomes first 4-year HBCU to offer free tuition. All right. Okay. This is dope. This is dope. Why? Because not only should we struggle to try to get education, which is obviously a good thing to do, but the fact that education can be very expensive is another issue attached to this. You get what I mean? So if I see this historically his black college university not only trying to provide education but make it accessible, we gotta shout that out. That deserves a shout out. I mean, here is an institution that is stepping up. It's the first HBCU to do that. And so we want to encourage other HBCUs to follow suit. However, we know that costs money. We know it costs money. So we cannot expect every HBCU to do the same thing as any other HBCU. Location, government assistance, um, alumni giving back. All of these factors are at play. So let's be careful. I would love for every HBCU to be able to offer free tuition for 4 years. That would be dope. Literally, it would be dope. However, we have to know that every HBCU is not going to be able to offer that. All right, but right now we're going to celebrate the University of Virginia. University of Virgin Islands. I hope I didn't say Virginia before. I think I may have did. I may have. Okay, so the University of Virgin Islands becomes first 4-year HBCU to offer free tuition. Now, there are other universities that are doing something in general, like non-HBCUs, like Rice University in Texas, which is offering some assistance for families with income below $130,000. Okay, that's dope. Now, anybody here who's going to college knows college is expensive. Anybody here who's a person of color understands the immediate challenges that one faces financially, obviously, and also socially. And so I think that much of the credit that is due is self-evident one way or another. All right. So let's move on. I'm going to come back to the education track. I really want to come back to that, but I'm going to jump ship and shout out the NAACP. This is big for me. The NAACP, this is big. The NAACP is endorsing the LGBTQ Equality Act. All right. This is I got this from NBC News. Now, the Equality Act is a federal anti-discrimination bill, right? And the whole idea is to modify the Civil Rights Act, right, and to add protection for sexual orientation, and gender identity. And so it's protecting those categories as classes. Now, this is important. This is really important. Let me, explain a little further. Um, Now, some people may say, and you just play devil's advocate against myself. Well, hey, this is supposed to be black shoutouts. Well, I get the part that the NAACP, it's an organization that was organized, founded to help African Americans. But why are you shouting out their assistance for the LGBTQ, Kasan? What's good with that, man? Well, we have to keep this in mind. You can never, ever, ever forget this. The journey for racial justice is inherently the journey for social, economic, political, sexual, gender, you name it, equality. Right? It's the most radical form of the pursuit of justice. Because what we have here, racial injustice, is inherently inhumane because it reduces another human being just for some arbitrary reasons to a level below humanity. So you cannot talk about racial equality and not acknowledge and fight for the equality at other levels of our humanity that are, in fact, at least closer to a form of equality than racial injustice. You follow me on that? So there's some hypocrisy there. Now, in terms of political strategies and alliances and understanding, understanding the demographics or the constituents of different groups and classes, there is a way to perform and do these things. It gets a little complicated, but I want to speak to some of the black folk that I know who go, oh, LGBTQ, they got more rights than black people. First of all, that makes no sense. It makes no sense for the reason that there are black people who are part of that group. And so they're comparing, they say comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing a racial class, which will consist of people who have different sexualities, different religions, okay, different belief systems, and some could be atheists, some could be Christians, some could be Catholic, some could be Buddhists, right? Some could be gay, some could be not, right? But they're all bounded together by their blackness or by whatever the ethnicity that's targeted, right? Versus another class that consists of various races and ethnicities, okay, but who are all joined together at the hip because of a sexual preference. So this is where the critical thinking becomes very important, and and I have to come at the left for this, or people who supposed to be so pro-black, not realizing that if you're really, really, really pro-black, you are radically pro sexual orientation, the freedom of sexual orientation, gender equality, and everything else, and the equality for other groups. So I got to speak to that because I know, I get into debates and discussions, and I want to explain that. And this is very important. And one of the things I always say is that, and I appeal to the white constituents on the left who are a little hesitant to push for racial justice. They kind of feel that it's better to push for economic justice, not realizing they're just pushing up against a wall. That when you push for racial justice, you know what happens? You're actually pushing for capital J justice in our society. That's what's going down. Did I get what I'm saying here on that one? So it's inherent. You're inherently pushing for the civil rights for all, even for yourself, when you push for the rights of minorities. And vice versa when minorities push for the rights of others, they are emboldening um, the themselves for to make requests about their demands for their demands. It goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. So this is an issue that might deserve its own sort of podcast because it comes up. The NAACP, which was founded in 1909, right? It fought hard for the civil rights. It was one of the major organizations behind the civil rights movement and getting the Civil Rights Act established, and for helping people, black people were who were targeted by violence, who were targeted by whites who didn't want certain black people to live in certain neighborhoods, or who were just targeted just for being black. The NAACP, throughout its existence, have helped people of color. Irrefutably helped people of color. I'm talking about from food, money, offering legal services, and policy. So don't front on them. Stop fronting on them. Okay? And this push is very important for us because you want to bolster up the agenda for civil rights for all, because within that package are the civil rights that we want for ourselves. And lastly, let me say, I don't want to dwell too much on this one, is that someone said, yeah, I think I mentioned this, right? LGBTQ, got more rights than black people, and I go, well, what do you mean? Well, what rights do? And I hate to have to argue this, but I have to make this point with this person. What rights do gay people have that black people don't have? Because they don't realize gay people, the gay community, are fighting for basic rights that many African Americans already have, like to marry. All right, I should stop there. So they were hard pressed to find an example. The only example they found were along racial lines, because what they did was target a white gay person and highlighted the privilege that white gay person sort of enjoyed. And they didn't realize that all they were doing is showing that, yeah, racism can cut into other categories, right? White privilege cuts into categories. It cuts all, even within the liberal camp. And that's another issue. It's a larger issue that does not support the claim that gay people have more rights. They're just saying, basically, even among gay people, that there are some who enjoy more rights because of their membership to the white community. All right, you get what I'm saying with that? So no one has really, answered, my question, has responded well, and to that. But unfortunately, people are still saying this because they're not going a step or two beyond the propositions that they've just taken. And I understand people are taking this, these propositions are expressing a concern that, they feel that black people get left behind when they buy into, all boats rises. And I understand that. I understand that concern. But I got to move on. So I want to shout out the NAACP for fighting for freedom. Fighting for freedom. All right. Oh, I should add this too. So conservatives are trying to sever the NAACP or sort of black movements from other groups, right? And so there was a group that said, "Oh no, the NAACP don't really care. They're not fighting for the LGBTQ community, equal rights." And it's in that article that I was reading. And of course they would say that because the last thing you want is like a sort of another sort of, civil rights movement, right, in our day, which will be even more, much stronger and more robust, right? And we've seen a sample of that in 2008 when we all coalesced and voted for Obama, and they're doing their best to divide us. So I'm shouting out the NAACP, and I think you should too. And no matter what your sexual orientation, we have an obligation, a moral obligation, to protect those who have different orientations from our own. Right? You may not believe in it because of your religion or whatever, but if you want to enjoy certain political rights, then you got to make sure you respect other people's political rights. insofar they're not violent. All right, so we can talk about that in another political theory talk. Can I move on? All right, NAACP. Much love for that. That was dope. Now let's go on to some education. I want to get back to some education here. Oh, before I get back to education, I think I got to talk about. I want to talk about Tarana Burke. Okay, the sister Tarana Burke, who's the founder of the Me Too movement. And so there's a piece in a HuffPost called "Me Too Founder Tarana Burke Launches HBCU Anti-Sexual Violence Tour." All right, this is the Me Too HBCU tour. Now, basically, this is a tour taking place at 5 HBCUs, and the objective is to raise sexual assault awareness, to call attention to rape that unfortunately goes in many cases unreported, and unfortunately in other cases not not getting the right legal um, decisions. So a lot of people get off. And so what Tarana Burke is doing with her partner, she's working with a cultural scholar called Yaba Blay, and they're having conversations and conversations to learn how to talk about these issues, how to be aware of these issues, and also strategies to address these issues, sexual assault and rape. Right. One, preventative. How do we stop that? Two, how do we, for the victims out here who don't want to come forward, how do we create this safe space? Right. We want to prevent it, but unfortunately, in this world, it's already happening. It's already happening. It has happened. Um, so they're doing this, and it's happening at HBCUs as well. And so she's targeting, our sisters, and our brothers, man, even some sisters too, have not all, but just it's just too many for me because I know some who can so easily just try to find any other excuse to protect someone who is, I mean, who has a legacy, a reputation, who's infamous for sexual assault and abuse, but because they want to compare this particular person with a white person who may be getting off the hook, they fight tooth and nail to protect this person so that they don't appear to be brought down by the system, by the white man. And that's horrible because that shows an insensitivity to the black woman. It is so bad right now that many, who critique the Me Too movement don't even know that the Me Too movement initially was a movement of black women. But it got popular when more white women were heard. So something to think about. So I want to give her props, Tarana Burke, for stepping up to bring awareness to the women and men, young women and men, the boys and girls that that are having their bodies trespassed, whose physical boundaries have been breached, who have lost a part of their humanity and in horrible ways, and then to have that ignored by society, even in some cases by the black community, and also just as bad by our legal, and justice community, and even the institutions that whose responsibility is to protect and create safe environments for them. So this is real serious. I can't imagine what that feels like. So this is a really serious matter that she would do this. She so I appreciate that. Here's what she says. She says young black people across the diaspora along spectrums of class, gender, and sexuality and ability rely on and invest in HBCUs, not to just facilitate an education, but to keep them safe. While doing so, she said, we are holding academic institutions accountable and harnessing our collective power to create strategies for sustained systemic change. So shout out to her for doing that. That's real. Shout out, shout out. Okay, that is real. We need that. And the same way I can shout out at HBCU, if if there's a systemic issue on HBCUs dealing with sexual assault and rape, then we take them to task. Okay, or in many ways, if it's not because they're dropping the ball, we ask them to step up, and this is what a member of our community is doing, and this is what we all should do. Now, let me move on to some exciting news. I'm sorry for the vicissitudes for the change, and I hate that I talk about something that is very solemn and very serious, and then move on to something that seems to be more joyful, in a sense. But again, we have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Um, so I want to shout out this 8-year-old kid, the Tani Toluwa. Hope I pronounced his name correctly. Arewumi. He was a homeless kid who won a chess tournament in New York State, and the feat to that is an amazing feat. I don't know if you know the stress of being homeless, or not. A family not having enough to provide. You have so many distractions, and this young kid. I mean, not to mention that he's young and playing chess. He's 8 years old, and like I'm sure his attention span could be like bouncing off the walls like a ping pong. That's extra rubbery. Ping pong's rubbery? No, I'm not sure. No, they're like plastic, right? Uh, so so yeah, this is awesome. I commend not just the kid, but mainly the family that cultivated and nurtured this young man, and also the school that provided the opportunity for Tani to get chess training. Oh, by the way, my former chess coach, Maurice Ashley, the first African American grandmaster in history, I think today had a talk with him. If it was not today, perhaps it will be tomorrow. And so that's dope. That is real dope. So like we're like connected by just a few degrees. So I want to shout out Tani and his family and the schools that have cultivated this 8-year-old kid's talent, because truly it takes a village of support for all of us. We got a comment here on Facebook. Kasan, don't forget we were supposed to converse on HBCUs. That's true. Yeah, we're gonna do that, Wayman. We're gonna do that. In fact, listen, let's set up. We can set up a day when we do something when you call in, and we have a special day on that, and we get a theme, and we can hash it out on that. All right, we'll do that, Wayman. Um, and so let's see. Finally, I want to shout out Dylan Chidik or Chidik. I was looking at this kid. I couldn't find um how to pronounce his name, but you can go to ABC News and learn about him. Let's see here. Let me pull up. Let's pull up. Here we go. So basically, there was another homeless teenager who was accepted. He's out of New Jersey and was accepted into 17 colleges. That is admirable. It's unfortunate that these are the kind of hurdles that our youth have to fight through, jump over, crawl over. But we gotta do what we gotta do. But we need to support our youth. Anybody, not just the youth, anybody who's doing something, because this young man's life can bloom into an amazing tree with so many leaves, with so much fruit, giving back to us, feeding us one way or another through his work. So, Dylan, I want to give you a shout out. Congratulations for the work you've done to get accepted into 17 colleges. You know what I like though? His his goal is to go to law school and get into politics. Your boy is a threat. So I want to let you know, Dylan, it's not going to be an easy road. It's a worthy one. It's a worthy journey, but it's going to be tough because a person of color or any person who, it seems to be a threat. Who knows? I mean, maybe this kid could be a conservative, but he's still going to have a tough time. And so I just want to shout him out, and I want to encourage him to get into politics, especially law. We need some lawyers. We need some Latino lawyers. I have a friend. She's getting her law degree, and she wants to fight immigration. I'm like, do it, do it, do it, do it. We need that kind of representation in the professional world. We need we need to occupy politics. We need to occupy law. We need to occupy all the spaces, art, culture, to be a part of the conversation, particularly in those spaces where decisions are made, consequential decisions are made that will impact our lives. So that's it for tonight. These are my shout outs. And I hope some of these shout outs motivate you to do your thing, and also to support others who are doing things that you know. Now, it's not just about the people who make the news, because there are many of us who don't make the news who are doing amazing work. You know who they are in your lives, so shout them out, support them, support them. So, if anybody want to call who got a shout out to make, someone you want to, shout out that's out here in the news doing something, or someone you can call in 202-505-0250. 202-505-0250. I'll give you a few minutes to try to, to call in, and you can shout out. Or if you got a question about anything, something that I said, feel free to call in, and, we can chop it up. We got a little space for that. That's our political soul food line. So let me know what's good. Um, I'll tell you, I'm really, I'm I'm very hopeful about the future for this country, despite what we're seeing now. Particularly because of the stories I'm reading. These black shoutouts are reminders to me that there is a force, there's a wave that is still moving in the right direction. Although we are seeing, on top, some bad weather. We're in the middle of a little bit of a storm, but that storm is going to pass. All right. I kind of see it in a sense as some people throwing a tantrum. Now it's a dangerous one because if we sit back and don't do anything, then the worst of the worst could happen to us. And a lot of bad things are already happening across the board of American politics, from immigration to the civil rights, our environment, trade. So a lot in education, and social programs. So a lot is happening. But I believe that we're going to be able to bounce back from this. Now, it's not going to happen with a snap of fingers. One of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, because I'm trying to help send out the echoes, send out some motivation to all of us, because that's how it works. That word of mouth is still powerful. So sending out these, positive messages and facts, not just wishful thinking, and facts and details. I'm giving details. This is one thing to say, hey, we got people who are still trying to make a difference in our world, or in our communities. But it's another thing to point them out. And I've learned that is so important. I just thought like, it's right there on Google, it's on Facebook. Anybody can just get it. But I learned that a lot of people's social media platforms are wired for certain kinds of news. It's cool. It's all right. Some people just want, to know the what's going on in the hip hop world, what's going on in the fashion world, what's going on, which new movies are coming out, who's doing what, who's wearing what. They have certain blogs where people travel and food, and hey, I understand that because people work hard and they want to enjoy themselves, right? So I'm trying to, if I see that as an issue, so I figured let me step into that space and talk about certain things, talk about concerns, but I had to also remember to talk about the good, because without talking about the good, I noticed that it's hard to motivate someone, especially on the left. The left is not easily motivated by saying things are bad. In fact, we feel worse and we don't do anything. We freeze and we retrench, right? So I want to remind people of the good that's happening. Another example of this is the fact that a lot of people that I know who voted for Obama, right? Not even the ones who just don't like him, but like people who people who voted for Obama. Let's say people of color in particular. Many cannot name one thing that Obama's done for African Americans. Now they'll probably mention my brother's keeper and that's it. But when it comes to policy, they can't say it, and that has unfortunately mutated into something negative. Obama never did anything for black people, right? And then that had caused a lot of black people to become vulnerable to Trump's enchantment, or trickery, saying, "Hey, what do you have to lose? The Democrats haven't done do nothing for you, right?" And I'm talking about the black community. This is Black Shout Out, but and I'm sure there are non-blacks who are hard pressed to be able to name something, and the lack of that information means that there's no source of motivation. There's nothing to look forward to. There's nothing to fight for. The most that people, you know, really are fighting for is something, let's say, like Obamacare, right? That's the more obvious one, right? But there's a lot of stuff out here that happened in the last 10 years that we should be aware of, and even before. And so that's sort of the premise of the shout outs to 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 bring some political soul food that can recharge us and to remind us that we've accomplished a lot and we have something to protect and we have a future to build towards. And while I'm focusing on the black community, I think every community has its sort of heritage that aims for freedom, because my own words can be used against me if a white nationalist were to come in and say, so why can't we do white nationalism? Because white nationalism is an agenda that is excluding and limiting other people's freedom, so at the expense of to pay for your privilege. And this is different. I'm trying to build to equality, and in order for to build to equality, I have to acknowledge the progress that's happening towards that equality. Okay, not to oppress you. So yeah, I think I get that. All right, so that's it for tonight. That's it for this week. Thank you very much. If you ever miss a show between Monday and Thursday, feel free to check out my YouTube channel, which is my name, Kassan Henry, or you can type in Political Soul Food, which will be one word, and you can find a lot of these podcasts and other things that I do. And if you want to support this, because I'm going full force with this, go to PayPal me, Kassan Henry, or become a patron and support this monthly at Patreon, patreon.com/Kassan Henry. And more importantly, if anything you do, make sure you step up to the plate when it's time to help someone and do your thing. You got to do your thing. Be the best you can be. Do your thing for our community. Even if it's just swiping your MetroCard if you live in New York City and getting somebody a chance to get to their destination without getting arrested and getting in the system, which, comes out of our pocket in a sense, right? And so, yeah, so we want to make our community a home. If you were here yesterday, you remember I played a recording of someone who felt very uncomfortable with the growing diversity. And remember the guy who said, "Does that make him a racist?" that the mall he was in, and the video was showing, Latinos, Latinas, Asians, Black people, and he admitted, like, these are good people, but I just don't. It doesn't feel like my country. I mean, he's acting like he's like 200 years old. I mean, because he should have seen this kind of diversity years ago anyway. But there are people who are living in these enclaves that when Obama became president, they were like, "What? That's possible now? That's possible? That Civil Rights Act was real? That was just a TV show." So a lot of people would say that change is real. It's on the way. This is a demographic revolution that has already happening, and slowly but surely, that revolution is beginning to manifest, as a political movement once we get ourselves together. So thanks again for chiming in on Political Soul Food. I'll see y'all next week. Stay tuned for another Political Soul Food feature. If you haven't seen that, I did sort of like a documentary slash podcast. This was my first one like that, and I was like walking around Harlem with a childhood friend of mine, and we were talking about his life and in Harlem. Um, I could have gone into some more deeper questions with him, but I didn't, and it was really to express and show his world and what he felt at the time without really critically analyzing the social economic um, warfare. But anyway, I'm going to be doing like podcasts like that, more of those, which you won't find. They won't be live. They'll be pre-recorded. So you might want to check out. You might want to subscribe. That's it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me just say it like that. I'm trying to get some good content for y'all, some interesting content, some provocative content at the end of the day. And subscribe to the Twitter page. And if you see something, a video you like, they say if you see something, say something. Do that or like something. Thank you very much for chiming in here on IG, on YouTube, and on Facebook. I want to check out tonight. I wish y'all a great night and an amazing weekend. Thanks, peace, and love. IG, over and out. Peace out, Wayman. All right, bro. You